Welcome to NinonSpeaks. I'm Ninon de Rosa, and right next to me is my co-host, AJ Dean. She's amazing. And of course, we have our wonderful guest, but I don't ever introduce the guest because I let AJ do that because she does, actually, she's a much better job than I do. I'm not very good at introducing people. I'm great at interviewing them, but to introduce them, I don't really think I give the best. So AJ, take it over.
Thank you, Ninon. But I have to say, Ninon, that you are a wonderful, wonderful spokesperson. So you're the conversationalist that rides it way high. And so I'm so pleased to introduce Lacy Knightley. She is the bookish babe of burlesque. She's a writer, burlesque drag artist, and producer and a model. And she's got this great show that she's going to talk about in Portland, Oregon called the Cabaret Society, at a rooftop burlesque review. And it's coming up September 18th from 7 to 9 p.m. at Botanist in Portland. Welcome, Lacy. It's lovely to see you. You're so gorgeous.
Thank you so much for having me.
You look amazing. I love your hat. It reminds me of Ascot in England. You know, we have the races in England and the Queen and all the royal and all this stuff. And they all have these fabulous hats on. Well, you would be perfect there. You would fit right in.
Well, thank you. I have a definite affinity for hats, for sure.
Do you ever make your own?
I have made my own in the past, yes. This is not one of my creations, but it's definitely something I've dabbled in.
The reason I say that, because you look like you're a creative woman.
Well, thank you. I am pretty creative. I try. How about that?
Now, Lady Knightley, Lacy Knightley, that's a pretty awesome name. How did you get that name?
Well, my name for many years was Lacy Knickers first.
Lacy Knickers? Yes. You know what knickers are in England, don't you?
I do, and that is where it came from. So I did have that for a long time. And then I thought, well, maybe I felt like I needed a change, that I wasn't quite the cutesy performer.
You weren't quite knickery. You weren't knickery. You became knightly.
I was more knightly. And so I thought it's time to change. And I felt during the pandemic was the perfect time to change. And so,
so you just recently changed it. Fabulous.
I did, yes.
I like change. I like change. I think change is good. So now, thinking of burlesque, don't really think of burlesque being in Portland, Oregon. You don't quite think that. So how did you end up there or land there, or have you always been there?
I've been in Portland for 16 years, but I've only been doing burlesque for 7.5 years. So I ended up here from Los Angeles, from Southern California, and came here and had a family. And then one day I took a burlesque class, and I thought, and that was 8.5 years ago. And I thought, I really like this. I want to keep going. And so I did, and that's it.
And that's how you did it. So when you were going to these classes and you're kind of, doing you're obviously being taught, you obviously have a teacher. Did you realize that you could make all these lovely moves? Because there's a certain way a burlesque dancer has to dance. It's not the normal way of dancing. It's very sexual, but at the same time, it's a little bit more reserved, isn't it?
It is. It's all about the tease, for sure. And I was a dancer before. I had a lot of dance experience in the past, growing up and so forth, and I've had some theater experience, and I was a teacher for 16 years. So I've had production experience doing talent shows and all that sort of thing. And so putting it all together really did help once I started taking classes, and it really did free my sexuality. It was something that I needed at the time in my life. And so,
okay, what were you hiding?
Hiding?
Bring something up as means you now feel like you can perform what you want to perform yourself and not be embarrassed, right?
Exactly. Yes, I was, and I was, it's kind of a midlife crisis sort of thing. I'm a writer also. So I saw the class, I saw a show first, and then I thought, this is amazing. I love this. I want to do this. I've always loved vintage clothing, retro types of things. I've always been interested in history. So I loved the history a part of it and the retro part of it that I learned at the time. Now I know it's so much more than that. And so I thought I want to take a class, and I thought I could write about it someday, even if nothing comes of the class. And I just fell in love with the whole thing. And so
yeah, you can kind of write your memoirs, but burlesque is something so different, and it's something I always think when you think of burlesque, you kind of think of years back. You kind of think of the 20s, the 30s, and the 40s, and you think of always. I mean, when someone says burlesque, immediately my mind floats back. Is that because we don't hear as much of it in this day and age?
It's true. And that's what I thought of first going into it. And the shows that I saw were quite retro in style, classic burlesque and that sort of thing. But now I've learned that it's just a whole world of neo burlesque and any type of song, just nerdlesque and just anything under the sun, draglesque, which I do as well. And so it's just such a creative art form that I love. But definitely I still have a love for the classic burlesque and the historical part of it as well.
What's the drag? What did you say? Drag less, drag more, drag and different? What did you say? I heard the drag bit, but I didn't get the rest of it.
Yes, draglesque. I'm a drag king and a drag artist also. So I have another persona named Nick Lacy, and it's a gender bending, we call it gender kind of thing, where you also do burlesque with it. So
I see.
It's called draglesque.
Draglesque. I think that's fascinating because, things change and things happen. Has that always been around?
It has been around for a long, long time. Just a lot of people, they may not use that word. I think the word is more recent in the last maybe 5-6 years, but the actual type of performance has been around a long time.
A long time. So are you happy with what you're doing? You look happy and sort of doing it. Do you do this show just by yourself, or do you have other dancers that come with you, or is it a whole production, or is it, what exactly do you do on stage?
Well, I do a number of things. I'm in a lot of other people's productions. So I get booked by other producers and I perform in other people's shows at other venues. And then I produce my own shows also. I have a show that's been going for over 5 years called Book Lovers Burlesque, which is a mix of the literary arts and burlesque. We have readers that come and read 5 to 7 minutes at the most of a literary piece, and then a burlesque or a draglesque or a boylesque act matches it and will perform right after the reading. And they have different themes, and we have one coming up, the Gothic edition, Book Lovers Burlesque Gothic edition.
What's the Gothic edition?
The Gothic.
I think that's a dog.
It is, yes, that is my.
Because all I could see was a tail flapping around. Or somebody was doing burlesque. I mean, it could be a little burlesque in the background floating around. He's doing his own burlesque.
Can we see him?
No, he's okay.
It's Violet, my border collie, and I don't know. Come here. You want to come say hello?
You're going to come up and say hello? Oh, hello. Oh, look at that.
Thank you.
Look at all that hair.
Yeah, I know. She's very funny. Like me sometimes.
There you go. Absolutely, absolutely. So putting these shows together, that actually keeps you in the times of what's going on now, which means you can put things in there and you can add like different tunes and do like jazz. Do you ever do anything? I mean, you never think of burlesque and jazz. But I think burlesque and jazz would be amazing.
Yeah,
and it is amazing. So I have the Gothic edition show. It's more of a spooky kind of haunted sort of thing. And I was just in somebody else's production with a live historic jazz band.
Oh, and really?
So, yes. And so I did burlesque to the band right then and there, and it was all music from the 20s, 30s, 40s, and it was so amazing to do it with the band. So I do love that also.
I was going to say, when you have a band and have 4 or 5 pieces, whatever you have, more than that sometimes, doesn't that kind of give you sort of the enthusiasm and you start to move? You sort of get yourself in tune with this band, rather than being a small band or even being a CD playing. But with a band, you kind of move with it.
Oh, yes. It has such an energy to it that you can't get from a CD. So it was wonderful. And I can't wait to be able to do it again for sure.
Sounds amazing. AJ, I know you're absolutely, you can't wait. You're like anticipation there. Ninon, come on, I want to ask a question. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, Ninon. First of all, I want to compliment you, Ninon, on your beautiful burlesque outfit that matches our theme tonight. You look stunning.
Da, 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 da.
Yes, let's go, Ninon, let's go. And my question to Lacy Knightley is, Lacy, can you tell us a little bit about, you did a historic review at one time with some historic buildings. Can you share the story with that? I think it's a wonderful tribute to history and your love for burlesque and theater.
Well, there is a play that we have done. It's now been 13 years in the city that I'm living in, which is on the outskirts of Portland in our historic neighborhood, where we've done this historic walking tour play that lasts about an hour. And you go to different houses in our historic neighborhood and you look at scenes from life of a certain year. And so the first one that I wrote was from 1908. And it was scenes from the people who lived in the houses at that time, and neighbors have donated their houses. We decorate inside the parlor area or some part of the house that they let us come in and just basically create the whole set of that time period. And we have the actors come in and portray a scene of that time. So it's a walking tour play to the different locations. And we did it for 12 years, 13 years up until the pandemic. And then we had to stop doing it. And it also changed every 5 years. So for the first 5 years, it was a script from 1908. And then I changed the script because the city asked me to 1913. And then right before the pandemic, the 2 years before, we did 1922. And then we were stopped. So hopefully next year we will do it again. And the production has over 100 cast members now. And
wow.
Yes, so it's a very big production. So I was doing that also before I started burlesque and had that experience with my partner also.
Is that all volunteer?
It is all volunteer, and it helped to create our local historical society too when we started it. So
yeah, because we have that in Los Angeles. We have that. I'm not in Los Angeles now, but when I was there, they have it in Los Angeles. There's a whole row of houses. Mm-hmm. And they're all different. They're all decorated differently, and it's just a beautiful thing to see and sort of understand that that's just one of the things you do.
It is, yes, and all that experience helped with creating burlesque productions of my own also. And I've done a lot. So I have the Book Lovers Burlesque that we've done about 5 times a year for about 5 years. We did 3 virtual ones during the pandemic, so to keep it going, and those were really well done, and a whole art form unto its own that we created that way. And then I've done story-driven burlesque shows where I've written a script like a play that were based on something. So we had Phantom Burlesque, which is a tribute to Phantom of the Opera. So I rewrote Phantom of the Opera basically, and we did a whole burlesque play with it, and one based off of Beauty and the Beast, one based off of A Christmas Carol. So I'm into the whole literary and burlesque thing.
And it seems like you like writing as well. You enjoy writing, don't you?
I definitely do love writing.
Where do you get your stories from? When you start a book, I've written one book. It was a volunteer book, but also I'm now writing my own, well, with AJ, and you become very different because you're creating something that's writing my biography. I'm like going back in time and sort of, all of a sudden I'm sort of putting my life into a book and like telling my story. And it seems like it's very different, isn't it?
It is absolutely different. The stories come from all over. I mean, a lot of things come from just inspired by something I see or something else that I read. And sometimes it's historical figures. And I'm writing a play right now that's not a burlesque play, but it will have a little burlesque in it. That's based off of in the 1920s in Paris at the first lesbian club that there ever was over there. And that was just inspired by seeing a story about it and I'd never heard of this place called Le Monocle. That's a little monocle over the eye was a symbol.
Le Monocle, what a great name.
Yes. Yeah. And I didn't know anything about it. I thought that needs a story that needs to be told. And so I'm writing. I just
absolutely. So you get your ideas from different places, don't you?
I do.
Your imagination floats around.
Definitely.
I know AJ has another questions. I can see.
I do. Could you tell us, Lacy? First of all, it's lovely to have you, and you're so gorgeous, and it's just wonderful to have you. You really put in a lot of effort to your outfit and your background and the lighting. So thank you so much for that. Really lovely. And but my question is, Lacy, can you tell us a little bit about the upcoming show that you're having, the burlesque show? It's called the Cabaret Society, a rooftop burlesque review.
So that is a show that is now once a month at the Botanist, which is a venue that's in downtown Portland in the Pearl District. And they have the largest, gorgeous rooftop venue area in the city. It is all permanently covered. They do have sides that are open when the weather allows it, but then when the weather is, as it's probably going to start getting a bit chilly, a bit rainy, they can close it up. And they have heaters, they have circulating air, and it's just such a large venue that all the tables can be spaced out so we can stay COVID safe. And we have a cabaret there now that I started called the Cabaret Society. So it's based off of the old cabarets of the 30s, 40s. We have a mix of acts though. We have burlesque, draglesque, and boylesque. And they are very high glamour is what I like to call it. So the music, some of the music is more, of the earlier times, and some of the music is more modern, but it still has that flair and aura of more of a classic high glamour look.
I love that. I've got my tickets. I've got 2 for my birthday. September 18th is my birthday. And I'm going to my very first burlesque show. And I've chosen yours, Lacy, because you're the producer and you put in a lot of effort. And I'm just so thrilled. I'm excited. So are there any tickets left on Eventbrite? Because when I got mine, there was just only a few. Do you know?
There are no tickets left. There haven't been any for some time. So we are starting to sell October 3rd, which is our next show there. And the VIP for that show is already sold out. So we have a few general admission left for October 3rd. And then we have ticket sites up already for November 7th and December 5th because the tickets are going so quickly. So gotta buy them fast.
Is this because you kind of got yourself very established in Portland? You seems like a lot of people know you and they like what you do, they like what you put together, so they're all ready to come and see one of your shows.
I do have a base because I've been
doing
a following. Yes, I'm from producing before the pandemic for quite some time. Plus I tried to keep going as much as I could during the pandemic. Just because of lots of reasons. First of all, this is my full-time job. And so stopping wasn't really an option. So I had to create new things virtually. And so I kept going as much as I could. So I know that helped a lot as well. And I know people around here are just starving for art. They just really want to get out in a safe way, which is what we are doing. So I think that has a lot to do with it also.
Do you have to still be in a safe way in Portland? Is it still sort of, it doesn't, I don't know, I don't see as many people talking about it as much, but it seems they've got these mandatory things keep popping out. And they're very strict and very sort of, I'm listening to little trips come in about the colleges that kids can't kind of, that they're taken out of school and, it's like they can't go because they won't have the vaccine. Is that the same in Portland? Is it tough there too?
It is tough right now. Over the summer, it was much, much better. But then with the Delta variant, it's definitely gotten a lot tougher now. So we have restrictions where you do need to have a mask the whole time, unless you're eating or drinking. We have the tables spread out quite a bit, which is nice on the rooftop because there's so much space. And then we also are requiring vaccination cards, and all of my cast and crew must be fully vaccinated and show me proof of vaccination. So we're doing a lot of things to stay safe. And the governor of Portland has put those mandates out as well for the masking. So
you know how to overcome this thing is to walk around with a bag of food. You could be forever eating. I mean, I don't know what size we'd all become. You know, if you don't have to wear it if you eat, so just say, well, I'm eating.
that is true.
One way to trick it. So you've got these 2 shows coming out. What else have you got coming out? What else have you got in your arena?
Well, I have another one that just came up last week that was just okayed by the venue. So it is brand new and hasn't even been announced yet. So it's a third new show in October called Vinyl Burlesque, which will be the Dig-A-Pony in downtown Portland. And it's called Vinyl Burlesque because it is inspired by vinyl records. And it's at a venue where they really love to have DJs come with their large vinyl record collection and play them. And so this will be burlesque to the vinyl records being played. So the performers are all choosing things that are retro in nature, anything from the golden age of records. So it could be 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's very new and kind of different. And so we're trying that.
Well, it's kind of new and yet it's kind of old because the vinyl records have come back and everybody wants these old vinyl records. It's become a big thing. And now you've made a show around it. Did you produce this show? Are you the one that put this show together?
Yes, this will be a new production and it's October 17th.
How many people do you roughly have in your cast for a show?
It's usually about 8 or 9.
8 or 9 people. And so when you go on stage and you perform, you have a group behind you and then they disappear and you do your own thing?
No, we all take turns. So, and sometimes it could be a duet, sometimes it could be a troupe. But we have an MC that comes and introduces everybody, and then everybody comes up one at a time, unless it's a duet or a group.
Oh, okay, yeah, because that's what I would imagine that what it would be anyway. But who knows? There's your doggy again. Your doggy is busy.
She's happy. She's very happy. Lacy, we're going to have to wrap up in a few minutes. I'm sorry, Ninon, but I did want to ask about this great black and white photo. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah,
the black and white photo, that actually was taken in December before the pandemic. So that's December 2019. And I was in Los Angeles and I was heading off to go to the Magic Castle, which is a wonderful magic club in Hollywood, California.
I have been there many times, many times. I love it.
My partner is a member of the Magic Castle. And
really?
So we were going for our anniversary. And I just snapped the picture right before we left. And I'm like,
there you go. That's a fabulous place. That Magic Castle is amazing, isn't it?
Yes, it's really
You go through this little door and they have this little window and you have to who you are and what you are, and then they let you in. On that, I want to thank everybody out there for watching Ninon Speaks with AJ and Ninon, and of course our wonderful guest who is Lacy Knightley, absolutely incredible. She seems to be a performer that has put everything together on her own and has been very, very successful. Not has been, still is, very, very successful. And I always like to see that because sometimes, you know, in the entertainment business, you go a little bit to the wayside, but you have not done that, Lacy, at all. You've kept it up, you're keeping yourself up, and you're excited about it all, which is, I think, you know, more than anything. I'd imagine every time you go on stage, you get excited. But I want to thank our audience out there for making this possible, because without you, nothing happens. And we'll be with I think our next guest is going to be in a couple of days. We're going to have another one. Periodically, we do these shows. We do 2 or 3 a week. And so we'll leave it up to AJ, who's going to be the next one. And I'd like to thank you again, Lacy Knightley. You are amazing. And thank you so much. AJ.
Thank you, Ninon, and thank you, Lacy Knightley. And if they can get a hold of you on Facebook, Instagram, is that right, Lacy?
Yes, Facebook and Instagram is perfect.
Lacy Knightley?
It's under Lacy Knightley 123 on Instagram, and then Lacy Knightley or Nick Lacy for drag on Facebook.
Wonderful. Thank you both. Thank you all of you very, very much. It's been amazing. And to our next show. Take care.